It's been a couple of months since I played Raid, which was my, huge addiction for a few years. Once I got laid off, kind of, I sought it out as a thing to help fill my day, give me a little bit of structure, not fill my whole day, but give me a couple hours, a day of play or whatever. And like a lot of those kind of gotcha games, I expected I would be given a lot of resources and be able to play it a lot for about a week. And then it would just kind of peter down because if you don't pay in a lot of those games, after that initial flurry of activity that's available to you, they tend to become weaker. And Raid did, but not as much as I was used to for other ones. And in fact, the more I became focused on playing it kind of well and trying to achieve certain events and stuff, the more I felt that I was required, to put in 8 to 12 hours a day in the game, okay? So it was really eating up time. And I was hating, it wasn't a game that I particularly liked, okay? I'm not really all that into the gotcha games. For me, they were more a distraction, something that I would play in the background maybe while I was working or something. Not really as a break even, just something where I had to click a mouse every now and then to do something, kind of like sipping out of my tea or puffing my pipe. It wasn't something that really distracted me from other stuff I was able to do. Now, what I ended up doing was it replaced work for me. Because another thing that I tended to do when I was working was just listen to news, listen to podcasts, shit like that, just background stuff while I'm puttering around. And then I would turn it off when I had to really, really think. Like sometimes it would be distracting, and yeah, I would just get off. But it was kind of like this. Yeah, I'm putting, I would. It essentially just helped engage my mind and keep me in that right kind of balance for working, especially while I'm at home. I found it particularly helpful. But I found that I needed to do these kind of things when I worked in an office, which was more problematic because, I guess if you had a phone and we're playing on the phone, it would be no big deal. But if you don't have a phone, if you're trying, you can't do this on your corporate, workstation. Although, honestly, while I was at University of Phoenix, I did a lot of browsing, and spamming and stuff while I was working. That would be kind of my break. But what I found was that Raid was eating up my life with those huge requirements of time. And I was really kind of resenting it because I wouldn't go out for walks and I wouldn't do this and I wouldn't do that. And obviously I wasn't dealing with, the work that I need to do around my house or whatever. And that all felt terrible. Of course, I knew that I wouldn't, after quitting, that I just wouldn't be some kind of absolute whirlwind of activity and lead a life that a normal person would lead. I'm still me, but I remembered the me of earlier who would go out and do things, maybe do one thing a day or whatever. And I was kind of expecting to fall into that. Well, after quitting, that's not exactly what happened. More of it is I've either tried to find other short-term addictions. Very recently, this last week or so, a couple weeks, I've been playing a lot of sort of storybook games that are kind of choose your own adventure type things. You don't do a lot in them. Um, some of them have combat engagement that's similar to the amount of engagement that I would do in Raid. I tend to aim for those because I don't like to just be paying attention to the story. I want some kind of mindless shit to happen too. Um, and some of those engage me enough that I like totally become engaged the same way as I would with like Railroad Tycoon or you know The Witcher or these kind of slasher type games that I like. Or any other computer game that I tend to lean into and become addicted to for a temporally limited period of time. And and the nice thing about these is I can just walk away at any time. There's no, oh, I have to play, I have to be on at 5 p.m. or whatever, which Raid was doing to me. And that was really pissing me off. That it was putting limitations on when I could, you know, be playing or not. I don't really like being on online games because of that kind of thing. But yeah, I found myself delving deeper into these short-term addictions. With the chatbots, I was doing quite a bit. I'm trying to get hooked on them again a little bit, but it's just not working right now. But when I don't have an addiction, I just fucking sleep. You know? Or I watch videos. You know, it's not like there's this huge, like, I don't know, something like a peace dividend or something. I find some other way to fucking throw my time away. And this pisses me off because I didn't used to be this bad. You know, I would have, first of all, I used to play the board games a lot more. Even when I was videoing them, but if I go to an earlier period of my life when I was living in Buffalo, I generally worked it out so that I didn't have as much internet. I had very little internet at that point. And I think that's really the problem is the internet. But again, when I was in Buffalo, I would do a little bit of work, play a turn. Do a little bit of work, play a turn. The work I was doing at that point was copy editing and stuff like that. It was kind of piecework type stuff, which meant that, you know, I was on my own schedule, right? Whereas when I was working in Phoenix or here and gaming, yeah, I tended to game more in my off time, I think. And I had things like in Phoenix, I had the swimming. I used to go for walks in between stuff. Here, all kind of stuff like that. But even before my wife died, I felt myself just degenerating into this, doing less and less of the gaming, doing less and less of stuff around the house and everything. Just everything sort of was going downward over the years. And then when work went away and I replaced it with an addiction, you know, I could kind of explain that away and wave my hands. Yeah, but, you know, I have to spend so much time on the addiction. But it's really hard to face now when it's like, I'm sitting there and I know that there are things that I should do, know that there are things that I kind of want to do, like go out for a walk or something like that. But I end up just not doing those things. You know? Now, I don't think, first of all, I'm not going to go back to Raid. I made my choice there. It's still installed on a computer, but I hardly ever turn that computer on. I think I've turned it on once or twice in that time period. In a couple of months. I really should, because I should convert everything over to that computer. But that's a task. And it's just sort of like, you know, yeah, I felt like at times I was doing something vaguely, you know, because I had that structure, because I had that, you know, have to be on at certain times and have to spend a certain amount of time playing. I can't tell how much battery I have left on this one ever. It doesn't give me a bar all the time. I was able to, maybe pretend that I was doing something useful because honestly, like work kind of didn't feel like I was doing anything all that useful either. Um, you know, I was fulfilling requirements that the company had, and doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and it presumably helped their security somewhat. But it's not like, building a table or something like that where you look and you're like, I got a finished product. It was, I don't know. Just more like a daily grind, the same way Raid was, and in terms of feelings of accomplishment, about the same kind of thing. And that's about all there came from it. There was a little bit more pleasure in work. But now, I feel more helpless in certain ways, just in the sense that I'm not getting anything done, I'm not doing anything, but I can't ever motivate. That's always been my issue. Sometimes I can get a little spark and run for a week or two on something. But then if it's my own initiative or whatever, it just sort of drops off. I just don't have that kind of, I don't know, stick it to itness or whatever that people have. And and I'm aware of this. There were times when I could trick myself into thinking that I wasn't, but now I know the truth about me well enough by this age that even just slipping into that state where I can do things for a couple of weeks or whatever is really, really hard because I know it's pointless. I know I won't get anywhere, right? And it's like, why bother? It's just this laziness or defeatism or whatever you want to call it, but it's also just realism. I know who I am and I know how I operate. Like I said, I'm not going back to Raid. I also don't think, there was this other game that was coming out, and I was asked to be, or I had asked to be in the testing for it, and the fact that I couldn't do it on my normal computer, and I didn't want to turn the other one on, is kind of a disincentive, and I haven't engaged in it at all. Which is probably for the best. I don't want to get into another raid-like situation, and I don't think the game is going to be all that interesting to me in many ways. It's kind of funny. I tried playing. This happened a couple of times. What the fuck is it? The baseball game that I like. I don't remember what it is. It's like Baseball Manager, but that's not what it's called. I don't know. It's not Out of the Park. Somebody gave me a key for that. I tried it for a while. I wasn't really thrilled. Baseball Mogul. Baseball Mogul. And it's, that game used to really hook me. And now, the last couple times I've done it, I play a couple of seasons of it, and I'm just like, I'm just not into it now. I played one this time. I ended up letting most of my players go because they asked for too much money, and then I had to bail and rewind. And I'm just like, I just don't feel like it. I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm just it's like nothing tastes right, in that sort of intellectual sort of way. And I don't know what I want. In a way, I think for the first time in my life, I very much kind of want to be around people or something, but not enough to go out and try to do things where I might meet people. And again, my knowledge of who I am and everything, I know I won't, But it's kind of odd because, like, one of my a guy I knew know from the bar wanted the game, and he actually approached me again just last week and offered. Would be just 2-player gaming. I just don't feel like that's not enough. But maybe I should contact him or something. I just I get along with him fine, so I think it would be okay. But you know what it is? It's not going to be exciting, right? It's like I guess what I'm kind of craving is that kind of life that I haven't had. Where I go out, and I've had it at certain times in my life, but where I have something to motivate me to go out, to hang out with people and do things, and just have that all that sort of mixture. And I know for sure that this isn't going to lead to that. This would be hanging out for a little bit, playing games with one person, and that's not what I'm sort of craving, or think I'm craving. I don't know. But everything, like yesterday, I really thought about heading out in the morning to go to the hardware store. But chances are they wouldn't have what I want, and the chances of anything magical happening are almost nil. So, it's kind of like, well, might as well just stay home. Yeah, I'm left with this. Okay, it does feel like my life is less than it was with Raid, but I don't want to go back to that. Life wasn't worth it with that being all I had. Life isn't worth it now either. But different levels of isn't worth it. I don't know if it's worth trying to strive for a slightly less miserable state, because the misery is close enough. And there is this opportunity cost if I devote myself to something like a raid type game. I'm knowing that I will not break out of it easily. It took 3 years or whatever before I finally gave up a game that I never really liked. Anyway, I just thought I'd check in with that. Obviously, the whole summer went by pretty much. It's late August, going into September. And it all looks, trying to make changes or something, it just didn't help, right? Sure, I didn't try hard enough. I didn't make the changes I should have or whatever. But what it comes down to is there's something fundamental in me that just does not allow for those changes to really work for me, for a different kind of life than I've lived all my life. The only way that those changes do take place is when I run into what I call bridge type people. I've had a couple of them in my life who help connect me with other people and create that kind of social web and everything. And within that, I end up doing things with a lot of people. That's actually one reason to deal with this guy. He actually has another contact who's interested in doing Traveler. But only if I can get enough people. Like, the idea of playing a role-playing game in 3 people is horrible. I've done that before. It's not enough. 4 is sort of the minimum. Especially if you're not, like, fucking 2 of the people. I mean, that was okay because we made it into other things. But, yeah. Anyway. I guess I was just checking in and all that, but whatever. Depressed because my hedge clipper is broken now.